For everybody who's fresh here, welcome. 2 goals here today: learn LinkedIn, have a good time. 1 rule: no being a troll. Never had a problem. So thank you, everybody. I'd want to here in a couple minutes give the floor to doing the workshop with Eric. Eric's a familiar face, and we want to workshop doing messaging. I feel like that's something you can always glean insight from just doing it repeatedly. Plus, with all of you smart people here, I feel like I'm probably going to learn a lot. So excited about that. Before we jump in, let's give like 5 or 10 minutes to any just priority struggles, challenges, issues, new things. What's up, Mike? But I am going to cut it off. I'm going to cut it off at 10 minutes from now.
Sales Navigator tags are going away.
No. Are you serious?
Freaking shit. Absolutely. You won't be able to create a tag come mid-September, and come October, they're going to be gone. There's a plan to migrate them to lists, but you only get 1,500 leads on a list, and we have tens of thousands on tags.
Wow. Jeez.
Yes. It's the biggest, worst news I've ever brought to the table here.
Shoot, I've got
classic LinkedIn. As soon as you
I've got to re-record like an hour worth of education now.
Here's what we need to do. First of all, we need to complain and see whatever. They may be upping the capacity on Sales Navigator professional numbers of leads you get. 250 per lead list, might go to 1,000, I heard.
Wow.
You might bump it from 1,500 on up. But you should plan right now for upgrading to the team edition.
Yeah. Jeez. Did you read that on their blog, or where did you hear that, Mike?
Bryn Tillman, and she's in conversations with the product managers there. I got the screenshots to show it and stuff.
Wow.
It's called sunsetting a feature. They use the word sunset.
Well, that's a big deal. That's I'm not surprised, but that really bothers me because tags were how we did KPI reporting for a long time.
Team edition isn't going to be for teams anymore. It's just going to be for regular users. They should call it plus instead of team, because I've been a solo person on team for a while just because of the 5,000 lead limit.
Yeah, it's a big jump. It really is a big jump. That's good to know, Mike. I'm gonna go cry after the hangout. Maybe have a small breakout. That's good to know. Did you see the new feature that's in list? That makes sense because on Monday I got a message from a guy saying, "Hey, Sales Nav is all buggy," and I'm like, "Okay." And then I got a message from an account manager who's like, "Oh my gosh, I can't load anybody's profiles." I'm like, "Oh shoot, updates are happening." And then I don't know if this was that, but there's a new. If you view a list, there's a new column called Outreach Activity. And it says who you've invited, who's connected, last message. You can kind of click it.
I've never seen that.
Yeah.
Have you seen it yourself, or did someone just say?
I don't have it. I don't have it personally, but here, do you guys want to see it real quick?
We'd love to see that. That's
okay. Hang on 1 second.
Messaging that we're going to see today from Eric is the biggest thing that there is. The second biggest thing is creating the right list of people you're going to message.
Yep.
So anything to do with lists.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen in 1 second. Hey, Mags, what's going on? Good to see you, buddy.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Sorry I'm late.
Hey, it's all good. So I'm just going to go like this and then go like this.
Are you showing us your phone or something? I'm only seeing a slot.
Yeah, I have to reorganize. All right, do you see that? Are you seeing does it look bigger for you?
Yeah.
Okay. So do you see where my mouse is where it says Outreach Activity?
Uh-huh.
This is what's new. So this is within a list. So lead list week 31. You can see invitation sent. And actually here I'm going to move.
Hey, that's really useful.
It is. It's not that great.
Will it tell you message sent? I wonder what other than invitation sent, and it probably says invitation accepted. Probably.
Yeah, it'll say, so it tells you if you've invited someone or not, which is helpful.
You say on the second one here it says sent message to, and it says invitation sent. How would 2 messages?
Oh, this is me messing around and seeing if we could start using it as a CRM.
Oh, but you're just that's not really sent.
This is the notes column. I was checking to see if I could make it fast to do. Oh, it's not letting me click while I'm screen sharing. That's silly. Hang on one second. Can you still see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I was just messing around to see if we could use notes in tandem with outreach activity to keep track of where someone's at in the messaging sequence. So this is me just messing around, but it's just right here. So you can see invitation sent, no activity. If you have sent a message, it'll tell you. And you can kind of pull it up on the right-hand side here. This is a brand new
Well,
list.
can you go back to page one just for a second? See if you can sort the columns. It's looked like some of the columns you could sort, maybe.
You can. It's not letting me while I'm screen share. Hang on, I'm going to move this down. 1 second. And again, I don't want to spend too much time on here because I think that there we go.
I'll go look through the dozen or 15 or so accounts I'm in and see if yeah, there's one that sorts. You can't. Okay.
So you'll pull it over here.
No, at the top is where you would sort by, for example.
Sent an invitation. So there's the actually go up here. Can see that.
Yeah.
Anyways.
All right. Let's get on with Eric.
Yeah. So I think check that out. I think that that's the route that LinkedIn is moving. So if you're saying that tags are being sunsetted, it's time to make the switch to lists no matter what.
Yep. So and it looks like you should plan for smaller campaigns under 250 for now, at least.
Yeah.
Until you see some more, because I wouldn't count on that feature being lifted.
Yeah, man. So one thing I would love if you guys have any ad hoc solutions. We'll use tags. So we've moved away from tags for KPI tracking. We more use lists now, and what we still use tags to track who we've invited because it scales so well. Unlimited tags. I want to know in the past if I've invited to someone to connect and then I withdraw it. I want to like remember in the interface that I've invited them. So that there's that challenge I can see happening. Then if we like emailed someone and we're not connected as well, I don't want to waste list resources on someone that we've emailed but maybe hasn't replied. So that's another thing we've tagged.
That's right. We've only been using, and I've only been recommending to use lead lists for folks that have already responded or folks that are in a special category that you want to monitor. Not for your bulk list of folks that are on a big target list that you're going to invite. Those aren't folks to waste leads on, but that's going to change. You're going to have working lead lists. You know, this week's invite group will go in and they'll go off and another group will come in and use it again. You have to reuse it, you know, whereas tags were unlimited, like you talked about, and it's limited resources. It's gonna. Have
you all ever found any tool that will view a profile and then add that person to a dedicated list? Because I've not found anything that can do that.
Yes. No, not to a list.
Yeah.
You mean to a tag list?
Either view the profile.
Anything that would add a tag externally, but you can put them into a Google Sheet. Lead Tool
Right.
Pro will do a visit campaign and put them into a Google Sheet, give you all the data from them.
Yeah, no, I'm more talking about adding a native tag or adding to a native lead list. I haven't found anything.
Some of those Chrome extension products would add a tag in the old days when I was using them. They could actually tag. I don't know that they do anymore or so, but like it was Duck Soup or Meat Leonard or one of those would actually add a tag to somebody. So you would visit and add a tag. You could do that with them at that time. I'm not sure if it's still there.
Paul, were you saying that you had been using tags?
Yeah, I've been using tags. Yeah, go ahead.
So everybody that's been using tags for anything like KPI tracking, what you'll want to do is view the tag, and then select all, and then save to a lead list with a list that matches your naming conventions for your tags.
Right.
So you'll want to do that.
I've been trying to find a way, since I'm so new at this, I've only been running my campaign for about 5 weeks. And so I have a huge list of people that I've tagged, and I've been trying to find a way of, like, when I change my messaging and I want to track that separately, how to start like separating people. And so I've started creating lists. So it sounds like I'm going to have to do that anyways pretty soon.
Yeah. All right, cool. Oh, no more tags.
Yeah.
I asked the product manager when they introduced lead lists, I said, are tags going away? He said, no. It was like Steve Campbell or whatever his name is. All right, cool. It's 10:20. Let's cut it off. It's time to make Eric the hero.
The guinea pig.
All right. So first of all, kudos, Eric. It's not easy to be the center of attention. So let's do this. Could you just give everybody a quick rundown on your offer, what your services are, and then your target audience. And then from there, let's workshop, like a couple of variations of what maybe a good connection request would be. Sure. And then from there to your call to action. All right. So take the floor, buddy.
Yep. So we have a 12-month marketing program for creative entrepreneurs. So the audience.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt if that's okay. What is creative entrepreneur?
Creative entrepreneur would be graphic designers, photographers, illustrators, videographers, anybody in the creative space that is either owns a firm, a small firm, or is freelancing full-time. So I do a little outreach to maybe part-time freelancers, but I don't spend a lot of time there. So it would be full-time freelancers and relatively small firms, anywhere from 4 to 12 employees, something like that.
Okay.
That would be the audience. And the offering is to help them with their marketing, ultimately to set up a program and then transfer that program back to them. I want the client to be able to actually have a sustainable marketing program that'll last them their entire professional life.
That's
We
awesome.
want to get the ball rolling for them, do all the heavy lifting, get it set up, the systems, everything else, and then train them and hand it off. So that's the offering. And the targets are these owners of small firms or full-time freelancers.
Wow. So what kind of what are you doing during setup?
Yep. So the 12 months are broken up. Month number 1, we focus on what we call pinpoint positioning. And this is the hardest thing, honestly. It's probably my biggest barrier to sales is, in order to market, as you all know, you have to define your audience. You have to identify your offering, and creatives are horrible at that. They want to say they do absolutely everything for absolutely anybody. And to even get started, you've got to narrow it down to one or very few things, to a very specific industry, and creatives hate it. They hate that idea because creatives are expansive and experimental, and they want to do everything and play and learn. And so that's where we start. So I have to persuade them they have to do that. That's number 1. It's a huge education lift that I have to do. But I've been doing that forever, and I can persuade them of that pretty easily. Getting them to commit to that kind of change, that's much harder. That's probably my biggest barrier. So that's month 1. We've worked with them on their positioning. We help them craft that positioning. And then we set up systems during that month as well. We'll get them, make sure their LinkedIn account is ready, and make sure they have Sales Nav account, make sure they have an email system in place, a CRM or a Airtable database, make sure their website is ready to take advantage of the marketing work we do. Month 2 is content strategy. So once we come up with the positioning, we have to have a content strategy that's going to validate and enable us to actually do some marketing. And we also try to think that through from the perspective of what is this creative capable of sustaining. So just because we might be able to do an article a week doesn't mean they would be able to once we hand it over. So at the get-go, we're thinking, okay, once we hand this over, are you going to be able to sustain this? So we get it structured that way. And then months 3 through 6, we actually do it. We write the articles, we write the social media posts, we publish the articles, we do the LinkedIn prospecting, we get it all set up. And in the process, we fine tune it, adapt it, adjust it, so that by months 7 through 9, we're ready to transition it over to the principal, guiding them, coaching them, helping them, walking through it with them, training them. And then months 9 through 12, we're just coaching and advising. So that hopefully there's some accountability and they can get that habit established and move forward from there.
Are you doing anything with paid on any platform and analytics?
Not too much. So for creative entrepreneurs, you're talking about business to business, you're talking about professional services. So the kind of B2C methods of buying ads just isn't really, there's not a lot of, it's too costly for them, and there's not a lot of juice from it. And analytics, the amount of activity is too small, I think, to get really good reads from analytics. So we focus more on just basic blocking and tackling of good processes and help get them adapted to those. And then once they, start getting those leads, it's up to them to kind of convert those in terms of sales. So.
Yep, for sure. Totally get it. So that's a great rundown on the offer. What have you, and we'll get into messaging in a minute. I find it's helpful for me. We used to start it with a connection request and then be like, all right, let's start the connection request and then make our way to the call to action. And then I realized like it's backwards because it ends up being too, so whenever we're doing the messaging sequence, I think, all right, what's the end? What's the offer? What's the call to action? And then kind of like work backwards. So in case you're wondering why we're going backwards. Yeah. So that's the offer. What call to actions have you tried? I mean, regardless of, success or not, just so everyone can be in the loop here. What have you been able to say? Here's what I can tell you to get you off of LinkedIn to have a conversation.
Yeah. So ultimately that phone call or that Google Meet or whatever is the most important one. And that would be the ideal. Usually those conversations will last 30 minutes. Sometimes if they're really interested, they could go for an hour. But that would be the ideal. Second would be, I know there's a lot of education that needs to take place. And so I have my book, I have my podcast, I have my subscription to my newsletter. So if they're a bit early stage, I would want to get them subscribed to my newsletter or to check out my book or listen to my podcast, because that will be that educational work that needs to be done to get them to a point where they're ready to make a change and move forward.
That's good. So you have a couple call actions that you can give. You can give educational material for top funnel. You can take a phone call for bottom of funnel, and then you've got the systems in place to bring a lead who's top of funnel so you don't have to sink a bunch of time into it yourself. Your marketing systems will bring someone bottom of funnel, right?
Yeah. So I have, so the LinkedIn prospecting, viewing profiles, making connection requests, all that's in place. I can run those pretty smoothly. And then if they visit the website, then there's, a pop-up there's an ebook they can sign up for. So there's that piece. Then if they spend a little bit more time, they might subscribe to a newsletter. And then ideally, if it's more of the conversation that would lead to the phone call.
And during that conversation, what do you need to know from that person to discover if they're a good fit for your services?
Honestly, the biggest thing is whether they understand the need to position and their willingness to do so. So if they haven't even considered it before, then I know there's 5 huge objections that have to be overcome. Whereas maybe slightly more mature founders who have been doing it for a while, and they realize, yeah, I get it. I know I need to do it. They just haven't pulled the trigger. They're still dragging their feet, but they know they have to. So in that call, I have to determine whether they get that concept, what degree of resistance they might have to that concept, or whether it's just a matter of they just have to pull the trigger and overcome their fear of doing it.
Yeah, for sure. Can I ask, what's the price point look like for is it like, do you bill once a month, or how does that work for them?
So I've set it up. There's 3 tiers. There's a package called the freelancer, a package called the growing firm, and I forgot what the other package is, but it's basically an annual plan. So they pay for the 12-month plan, but it's paid monthly. So the first level is $400 a month, and it's basically tied to the number of articles that we would write in a month. So if they do the lowest package, it's 1 article per month for $400. And that also includes social media posts and LinkedIn prospecting and the overall consulting, like all of the stuff that goes along with it is included in either any package. But it's either 1 article per month at the $400 a month, or 2 for $800, or 3 for $1,200. So the math is pretty straightforward there.
Okay, cool. All right. Anything else we need to draw out of Eric before we talk about messaging? No? All right. Okay, cool. So what would the connection request be? Eric, what have you tried so far for, actually, let me ask you this. Have you measured you did, right? You told me it was like in the 20% accept?
Yeah. So I started off, so also just so you know, for background, when I kicked off so I've been doing consulting like this for a long time, but I haven't actually offered it directly until last November. And when I published the book, I used that as my kind of launch point for the new services. And at that point, I was trying to sell just general consulting for all aspects of creative entrepreneurship. So business management, dealing with your money, dealing with your minutes, dealing with marketing, dealing with management, all these issues. Worked on that until January. Then in January, I actually bought another company that I run called Cuberist, totally different thing. Couldn't give much attention to this, and then came back working on it again in May, June, and in July, just like 4 or 5 weeks ago, is when I decided to just focus primarily on the marketing, because I think that's the biggest barrier. And it's the most tangible thing that a creative can realize they need to fix. And all the other issues are tied into it, but they just don't get it. It's too much education to try to convey. So the focus on marketing is brand new. And we just started marketing that. So my messaging early on was a bit more broad. And now it's more targeted. So, and early on, for the first 2 or 3 months, my pattern was not to do I would just hit connect, and nothing custom in it, which actually my KPIs showed there's really no difference in terms of the number of people that will connect. That's about 20 to 25% connection rate, whether I do just hit the connect button or various alternate connection texts that I've tried. And so I have settled at this point on my connection request, which is currently, hi, so-and-so, most of the creative entrepreneurs in my network struggle with their marketing. I'd love to connect and share my resources for solving that problem for good. Eric Holter, Marketing for Creatives, holter.com. My thought behind it is I want to be clear about why I'm connecting up front. And I'd rather have a slightly lower connection rate, but with people who know why I'm contacting them, than to just connect randomly and then hit them with a pitch or I want them to know that, hey, I'm contacting you because I want to help you with your marketing. And that way, if they connect, it's a little smoother to move on to the next steps.
So one of the fears that people have, I believe, is if they accept a message from a marketer, they're going to get hit with a whole bunch of marketing stuff, and you should expect that, right? Yeah. So if you talk about marketing in the first sentence, you're right. The connect rate may go down for that very reason.
I was thinking the same thing, Mike.
Yeah, but it's only like 2%. So if I do the default nothing, or if I do another alternative one was, and I use this one still sometimes, like if I find a part-time freelancer, I might send an alternate one, which is, hi, so-and-so, as a creative entrepreneur, you might want to check out my resources for marketing and managing a creative practice. Let me know if you find them helpful. So it's more just, here's some resources for you. Anyway, regardless of whatever connection request I've used, it tends to be about 25%, and the more direct one is 23%. So it's cool. A very small hit for being more direct.
So Eric, do you personally have a creative background at all?
Yeah,
I would totally do that. So my thoughts are here is I would say, like maybe even eat your own dog food and choose a niche within creative, and just say, like, hey man, love your stuff. I've been in creative for years. We should absolutely connect. Maybe that's good enough for the connection request, and then maybe message one, you maybe like re-compliment them on their work, assuming that it's good. I feel like creatives really like to hear that their work is appreciated, like they like their ego stroked. So maybe then after they connect, you don't want to like drag along to a sales pitch. You can be intentional, but that first handshake, maybe it's just the camaraderie of sharing work experience. And I think that what really is happening here is you're just farther along than they are. And I think that you can totally use that to sell. So maybe it's like, hey, I love your stuff. Remember when I was there as a freelancer? We should totally connect. Ask me, or whatever. And then maybe message one is, you do great work. Have you chosen a niche yet? Because that was one of the most significant things that I learned in my journey as a creative. And then you're basically giving them your sales pitch, but you're using your own self as your story, and you're still in business.
Right.
Just a thought. Just a thought.
Great.
Any other thoughts on maybe with the connect, and that's just one maybe variation. Any other thoughts on what that first handshake could be on the connection request?
If they don't connect, nothing else happens. So that connect is like until if a baby's not born, the baby can't do anything. There's no baby being born if they don't connect. I mean you can do a little bit of social with them, but I think it's extremely important. The biggest factor, I believe now, and I've got a 7-pager, it'll be 10, 12 pages when I get done, my design guide for messages and stuff, actually, right? Coming right up. You need to focus on what's visible when they see the invitation on their phone and when they see it in their inbox, before the ... goes in, before the see more button hits. And I have all my clients test in the inbox. We do tests now, and we look at the message and see how much you can't see here. I know you can't. How much of it shows? It's the first like 22 characters of the headline shows. So you want to focus on that. That's part of your invite. That's on every invite. It's right there. Right there. It's just before the text comes into play. And then there's a certain amount of text that comes in as well. If you go, this guy goes, hi, Mike, comma, enter, and all I see is hi, Mike.
Yeah, that's a great insight too, Mike. We've stopped doing the hey first name in the beginning because it's so automated.
It wastes the space.
It's way.
Or if you're going to do it, just put it all on one. I keep wanting to show you my phone. This guy goes though, Mike, now's a pretty good, it's all in one line. So he got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 words in. The other guy got 2, called Hey Mike.
It's like a preview.
So instead of comma, you go if you're going to put a name in, if you're going to at the beginning at least, if you're going to put space dash space, so you can still continue on that same line.
Love your work.
To put the name in a little bit later in the message so they can show more and still see their name, but they don't have to waste the 6 words.
Hey, Eric, I got a question for you. What would you say is the biggest pain point for these guys, so that if you're starting to speak their language, you begin to identify what their pain points are?
Yeah.
If there's a pain point that you could put in that preview that they go, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What would that be?
Feast or famine is their biggest pain point. Their new business development is not in their control. They rely on word of mouth referral, which is great when it happens, and they'll have cycles where they're getting a ton of referrals, and then it'll go dead or something will happen and they lack any control. So it's that fear of hitting that 3-6 month gap of I'm not getting a lot of work. What do I do?
I think there's also somewhat of a poser syndrome in the creative world. Oftentimes the business side looks at the creative and also automatically assumes that they are marketing people. And also, like you said, there's oftentimes a separation there. Just because you're a marketer doesn't mean you're a creative. Just because you're a creative doesn't mean marketing comes naturally with that process. And so I think them understanding the languages of what marketing are, there's that aspect of I need to know what an MQL is, and I need to know what an SQL is. I need to know these terms because my customers think I'm the expert across the board. So I would wonder, do your clients get caught in that arena of, yes, I need a sales funnel, but how do I fill it?
Right. Yeah, definitely. And they also suffer, they do this for their clients, right? They're supposed to be the branding experts,
right.
But they can't brand themselves. And they get that. We always chuckle, the cobbler's kids have no shoes, and they get that. But depending on what their focus is, if they're an illustrator or a photographer, they don't necessarily think they're marketers. If they're designers, maybe not. But then there's that, they cross over, if they're claiming all sorts of digital marketing experience, SEO experience on top of branding and identity and print and everything else, then then they might be a little bit like, oh yeah, no, I do this. It's like, I know you do, but not for yourself very well. So.
Right.
Yeah, I think if you want that first in, you have to take the angle of being like a comrade in the industry. I think that that's going to give you better foot in the door, and from there, it's like you just have to wait for them to go through the buyer's journey, you know. But if you're not connected, it doesn't matter. You know, you can't really do anything. At least not on LinkedIn. I would probably lean on that in the beginning, and then you're going to want to go from colleague to someone who's like a trusted industry expert who's farther along, because you become the guide. And probably part of there is telling your story. And maybe a good segue here is, man, you have great work. Have you chosen a niche? That was a big deal for me, because what it helped me do is stop the feast and famine thing, because I could just continually focus on the right group of people. And I actually had consistent workflow. That might be a good way to segue into your offer without it really being a sales pitch.
Right. Yeah, no, that's really good. That's good. So one of the struggles is my volume is pretty high in terms of the number of people I'm reaching out to, because I know that the number of creatives who are actually ready for this is a pretty small percentage of those. So I would, so my list, let me actually pull up my Airtable here. I've got 3,800 people that I've pulled off of my main Navigator list that I'm working with. I will view 200 profiles. When I'm first starting with that list, I would view 200 in a day. Of those, I would get maybe 25% view back, which means I now need to send a connection request. That's my top of funnel prospecting. And I'll do that sequence a couple, 2-3 times. I'll just do the viewing and waiting for a view back. If they never view back, I move on to just making connection requests. But I'll do 50 a day of connection requests after I've done the view campaigns. So my ability to customize the message is a bit like, at that volume, I don't have that much time.
Sure.
So I am trying to find something that's more or less a template that once they connect with me, I definitely invest the time to, look at their profile and respond more personally. But I do need something that's a bit more template in order to keep that volume.
Use any automation, Eric? The things you describe seem to cater well to a tool. You know what I mean?
Yeah. For viewing, I use a Chrome extension. So I have all my URLs in Airtable. I can just copy 200, drop them into open tabs, set it to 6 seconds intervals, and let it run for 30 minutes to view. When I get the view back, that I do manually. I'll copy and paste the invites, because that might, there might be 20 in a day, but that takes 10 seconds each. That's no big deal. For my connections, once I've viewed them 2 or 3 times and they're just not viewing back, I do use Octopus to send out that generic, initial connection request to the people who haven't done any view back. And I'll do about 50 a day using that.
That's great. Yeah, the things you described sounded like automation to me, and I'm glad you're using something there.
Bruce, want to say something? Go for it, Bruce.
Hey, Scott. Hey, Eric. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong person. So I can't help you at all with any of the automation stuff. But on the human side, I am getting great, and I got this idea out of this group. I'm getting great success on my LinkedIn events. So twice a month. Again, I don't know your world, but if I had to cull down from 3,800 in my big list, I would figure out how to get them to view my event, and I would have 3 different titles and 3 different dates within a 10-day period. An event is just a 1-hour program. It's a Zoom, right? Just like this, just like Isaac's Hump Day Hangout.
Yeah.
And the title is key, obviously, but you want different pain points. And then what you're doing is you're sending the event invite to all 3,800, because I generally do it in batches of 115 to 200. And I do it by company, by country, getting a lot of UK. Judy Parsons came. She kind of helped me out. And then by groups. So I'm sorry, not by groups, by education. So certain colleges, I've kind of figured that out too. Anyway, big picture. Forget, again, I can't help you with anything LinkedIn. My thing is, you change the bait 3 different times with 3 different titles in a 10-day period for 3 different events. Don't worry, I can help you with what you're going to talk about. I think you know what to talk about. Mm-hmm. But all you're looking to do is eliminate all this qualification through event. Let them, that's so funny. I am so elated with the success I'm having with LinkedIn events. I don't do connections and all this razzmatazz, and I know that I should. I don't do it. Is it that I'm lazy? No, I'm just non-technical. I'd rather people self-identify to my titles, and I change the titles, and then I'll figure out a way to get them on the phone, to get them over Zoom, to get them to my event.
Yeah. I haven't done events on LinkedIn before. Can you invite like anybody on LinkedIn? They don't have to be a first degree connection or anything like that?
They have to be a number one.
Well, first you have to connect, and then you can do the event invite.
Well, it's kind of both there actually. To invite someone where LinkedIn sends an invitation, you have to be first degree connection, but if it's a public event, anybody can end up viewing the event page and then registering. It's just using LinkedIn for the invites directly.
When you do the invites, does it do like happens if you do a message, and does it basically CC everybody? Are they seeing all the other people that are invited?
No, but I did make that first mistake. My first event, I asked Isaac about it and Mike O'Neill about it. And I got clobbered with one lady who said, "Get me off this chat list."
Yeah.
But I only made that mistake once.
That's the right way to make mistakes, is only once.
Yeah. Being recently back to scaling my LinkedIn stuff too, I did the same thing, just trying to share my latest article. I mean, not, it was a couple of months ago, but
it was a great article though.
What are the qualifications?
VA article. It was a great article.
What's up, Brent?
A quick question. When people are doing LinkedIn live events or like a live feed, what are the numbers that get you qualified to be able to do that? Because I think there is a threshold. Do you guys know?
I don't know. I applied and got denied, and the rules are technically you can't use LinkedIn Live to talk about LinkedIn. So I'm like, what do I talk about? I don't know.
Right.
So I haven't gotten the creds yet, but I haven't applied yet. I believe it's 3 articles published, and so much activity, like in a 90-day trailing edge period. So they see like if they looked at my 90-day period, it's not looking good. Although since I started hanging out with Isaac, it's looking better.
Bruce needs the juice. So it sounds like Eric, since we've only got about 10 minutes here, it sounds like as far as like a framework to maybe work within would be to start with the camaraderie, that you're an industry peer who's farther along. Give them some advice about choosing the niche, which is basically part of your offer, right? You're doing inception with your offer.
Right.
By so you can ask them if they've chosen a niche, compliment them on their work. And then I think that you have to work on what the offer is, and you've got a couple things to do, but maybe it's hosting a mastermind group where you share resources and knowledge live.
I'm actually working on a course, and I'm going to beta test it with my prospects. So I've got the course in like webinar format right now, and I was going to reach out to all my connections and say, hey, if you'd like to help me beta test this, so you can take it for free, and give me feedback on it and so forth. And that would actually be helpful in me to fine tune the course itself, as well as go deeper in terms of talking about these things with a set of prospects.
Hey, Eric, got a quick question for you. The process that you have put together, you've kind of designed it around the creatives. Do you believe your process could transfer to another niche?
Yeah, it definitely could. Anybody in the B2B professional services, all of this stuff would pretty much apply to. But as far as my own ability to market, I have to stay focused.
Well, I was just going to say, it sounds like you might have the opportunity to take your process and make that a product in of itself to those that are trying to do similar things to what you're doing, but in other categories. Because I'm sitting here going, that would be an attractive process to me, to be able to have a process that I could push my delivery through. Because that's half the battle, is finding something that's worked and making mistakes to get there. If somebody said, hey, this works in this realm, there's a good chance it might work in this as well, because we're just talking about people. We're not talking about anything real complicated here. So
Right. Yep.
What you might also do, Eric, is do a services search for your target market. Because if somebody has added the services section to their profile, they're going to be more active than your average Joe. So what was one, like graphic design?
Yep.
So graphic design, let's just do US, apply. So 11,000. And these all say that they provide graphic design.
Okay. So that's different from industry then, huh?
It is. Yep. But they're also saying that they provide it on LinkedIn, and they've taken the step to do that.
Yeah, that's using ProFinder, right?
This is not ProFinder. No, this is called Open for Business. It's totally different.
Oh.
Yep. Good question. Did you see how I got there?
Yeah, no, I'm looking on my own sales nav. I'm looking for
sales.
What is the Open for Business part you're talking about?
What I just showed you, Eric. This is only available in normal search. It's not in sales.
All right then. Usually I just assume.
What's that Open for Business thing you had mentioned?
Open for Business is let's see here. Let me do this. I'll show you. Can you see my URL up here? Okay, let me do this. Providing services. This is the official phrase that LinkedIn uses. It's called Open for Business.
I'm sorry. I know what that is. Sure.
So CL details, and then there you go. They've added it, right?
But are you searching on Open for Business somehow? Is that in your search somewhere that you were saying you were able to search on, quote, Open for Business?
So this right here, where it takes you to your profile link, open opportunities, service marketplace details. So this is called Open for Business. And if they've added this section to their profile, then, whoops.
You're saying you can search on that?
Then you're a searchable service provider. And I just checked on this like last week, because I don't find Open for Business available on every profile. And they're saying that they're still in the process of rolling it out. So you may or may not have it.
Is that geared towards people that are more along the lines of services that are offered as a freelancer or those type of services? Yeah.
It's more for freelancers, yes. Yeah. Also, Eric, which is why this is probably a perfect demographic for you.
Yeah.
You're going to miss so many people. If someone didn't put that particular section in their profile, which is a very difficult section to find and to put in, they're going to miss out here. I would use keywords instead of that.
I half agree. I agree that you'll get a bigger market share doing title, but I'd also say that people who have done this are going to be on. They're going to be on LinkedIn.
Well, and they're intentional. They found a way to get those services in front of people. Therefore, we know there's a desire to be found for those services. So,
yeah. Eric, remind me, what town are you in?
I'm in Apex, North Carolina.
Is that nearby Charlotte or Raleigh?
Raleigh, Durham, yeah.
So let's just see here. Who's in your neck of the woods? 131 people. So I would just grab this list and say, hey man, I'm like 30 minutes from you. You do great work. Just connect.
There are more there than I thought. I was expecting a half a dozen. So
is there any way to, because dealing with duplicates is a big problem. Since I've already got these broad lists that I've pulled from, is there any way to get those same, I guess not, in Sales Nav where I could add them to a list? Probably not.
Does anybody know of a tool that will turn
individually
a normal LinkedIn URL to Sales Nav? To go back, it's easy to turn a Sales Nav URL into a normal.
I don't think it's possible. I don't think.
I think that I think you have to have a sales nav account, and then click the view to get their unique sales nav ID.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a way to convert it that I'm aware of at all.
Yeah.
It's a randomized sort of coded URL over on
Yeah.
Sales Navigator now. Has been for a while.
Yeah. I'd have to open them, add them to yet some other list, and then I could like filter amongst all of the other leads I already have in lists there.
Maybe. Yeah, I feel like there should be a tool that can do that where it'll view it and then click this and then grab the URL. That's something that I'd be interested in using.
A tool could do that with a bot sort of principle, bing, 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 and it knows how to do stuff. Zap Info is the kind of tool that knows where on the screen to click and stuff. I could possibly see if I have pull there. They've added features for me already.
Yeah, that would be cool.
We want to run a LinkedIn search and pull the Sales Navigator URL. Or we want to run a Sales Navigator search and get the LinkedIn URL. I guess we want to go either way, huh?
On Zap Info, if you are in Sales Nav, they get the normal LinkedIn URL, but they won't give you the Sales Nav URL on either. And the reason Eric said he thought it was not account transferable, but I think he was not realizing that everything after the comma is what you need to ditch and everything else is universal. Anyways, that's a bunny trail. We got to talk about Eric.
Yeah. No, that's
Eric.
helpful. That's
Eric, that might be a way to also improve your targeting, but we're not really talking about targeting, it's just messaging, but you might be able to use this as a way to efficiently send those connection requests to where you're using thread theory, right? Where you're basically like, you share common work history in the same industry, your colleagues, that's helpful. You're nearby each other. And then once you've used search to narrow that down, you can actually send out messages pretty fast. And you don't even have to customize them a lot because you've relied on search to do the customization for you.
Cool.
So I think offer is your last thing you'll have to really nail down, Eric. Any other thoughts on what Eric can do? Sorry, Brent, we'll get to you in a second. Any other thoughts on what Eric can do for an offer, like to get people off of LinkedIn into his funnel? What would you be interested in receiving?
I like Jeffrey Gitomer's response to say, where he says, you quit selling, but apply value, provide enough value that people ask to do business with you. So the fact that you're working with people that are in the same niche as you are, the creative side, you've been there, done that. I think what Isaac was saying is that you've got things to offer, experience to offer. You can already start to relate on a personal level, providing something of value. If they go, oh wow, that's free, that's cool. You start that relationship, so you start gaining some of that trusted advisor role. So whatever you could put in that connection to offer something of value that there's limited need to make a deep commitment, but it's something that starts providing that value, I think would be important.
Yeah.
Eric, let's say you like the events, LinkedIn event. Did you like that idea?
Yeah. Especially since I'm doing a course, I could connect those two things up probably.
So in the description, you can say for the first X amount of people, you're going to give a signed autographed copy of your book, blah, blah, and include the title.
Right.
Because, that's $12. That's nothing.
And
then when you hold up the event, when you do the event, the very first words out of your mouth are, well, here were the first 10 people who responded. George Smith, Mary Jones. You guys, give me your mailing addresses in the chat. By the way, save your chat, everybody. Give me your mailing addresses in the chat, and I will mail you a copy of your free book that you won. Do that right away in the 1 hour event.
Cool.
Eric, what we've done also, so we have a couple initiatives going on where we're actually targeting the same group as you, like video editing, graphic design, the web, copywriting. And what our approach has been there, and for us, it's an education funnel. And so my returns are not nearly as high as like service side. And so I don't want to sink a lot of time to holding someone's hand in that scenario. And so what we've been doing is just taking the approach where we're connecting as an industry peer and then saying like basically, how's freelancing during COVID?
Yeah.
And then we'd say, if it's in the dumps, here's a quick video on how you can use LinkedIn to get leads as a freelancer. And they're like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. That's really helpful. And then we're like, yeah, there's actually like 200 of those. Do you want them? Sure.
Yeah. My follow-up right now when someone does accept is it's great connecting with you person. As I make new connections, I've been taking a casual poll on how COVID has impacted your new business and whether it's changed your marketing practices. How have things been with your firm? How have you been reaching out to new prospective clients, if I may ask? And that's getting 20% response, something like that, from people who have connected. I'm not sure how those KPIs compare what they should be or whatever. But.
Are you sending those messages through the normal inbox or SalesNav inbox?
Regular inbox.
Okay. So you maybe do a test where you send it through the SalesNav inbox because the email communication is different. Have we talked about that before?
Oh.
Yeah. So the short version here is Sales Navigator treats a normal message like an in-mail. So when you send a message from normal LinkedIn, the email notification that the recipient gets, it says, Eric sent you a message, view message, with a blue button says view message. If you send not the in-mail, but a normal message to First Degree from SalesNav, the recipient, unless they've turned off in-mail notifications, the recipient receives an email with your name and your message. So it ensures that your message is read regardless of whether they're on the platform or not.
That's pretty huge.
And then they can actually push reply in their inbox. And if they reply by email, you get the Sales Navigator reply.
Right.
So that might be something to mess with.
Yeah.
I've also just, kind of related, like LinkedIn's really tight with their messaging API for SalesNav. And I have not found any tools outside of like a browser extension that use SalesNav messaging with automation. And I think because of that, it's a little bit different. So I feel like that might give you an upper hand there.
Yeah.
But your messaging has to rock because they're going to get it. You can't rely on curiosity from view message.
Can I add one thing?
Yeah, of course.
Sorry, I got booted out by my.
It's okay. It's good to see you.
Hey, yeah, Eric. No, it sounds good. The only thing that I would say, and kind of the rule of thumb that I use, is pretend that you are conversing with these new leads and connections on your mobile. And
yes,
so
that's a
your
great.
message should come across as if you're like, and I'm a one-finger texter, which takes me forever, but things that come across too long or verbose with the proper indentations and all this stuff, it says spam, even if it isn't. And so what I would do is try to say, hey, great to connect, curious, as if you're typing it, curious, what do you guys, what's changed during COVID or something like that. So it's like more of a conversation that you're trying to start as opposed to, this guy's going to try to sell me something. I don't want it. And then the second suggestion, I think it was Brent from OKC. Hey, Brent.
Hey, that's where your daughter is, right? You get family there?
Yeah, my daughter's in Norman. So
hey, I live in Norman.
Yeah, she just bought a house, so she now planting some roots there. But anyway, she what was I talking about? Her daughter. Don't get me distracted. What I was going to say is, on top of what he was saying, and now I just lost my thought. What the heck was my thought?
Short Twitter, curious, question marks, mobile.
Oh, that's what
something I said was really profound, I guess.
It was. No. The other thing is Eric, can you give some kind of an assessment or offer that? Because what I converted very highly with was, and I do LinkedIn, so it was easy, but to say, hey, happy to give you a few insights on your profile if you're interested, and I got a really high conversion on that. So if there's something that you could, again, like what Bryn would say, don't lead with the solution, but lead them to that and help them see that, oh yeah, sure, I'll take an assessment. Yeah. Whatever it is about their business, there are a couple of key questions that you can ask, and that will also help you, number one, identify pain points. So when you hear that from them, then okay, my content's got to resonate around these pain points. And number two, it's also going to, if you let them do that talking, at some point they're going to turn around and say, all right, enough about me, but what do you do again, Eric? What is it then? And then you can talk about that. So, that's just two thoughts. But I have an ask of everybody. I'm like brain dead. I'm trying to come up with a simple invitation to connect with people. I've got a client in an industry, and I'm just like, instead of like, oh, we've got people in common or, some blah, blah, blah. Has anyone had a good, message that has gotten a high conversion? to
What
connect.
what's the industry of your client, and then what's
an IT service provider? He provides like managed service. He provides VoIP, whatever.
What's his role in the company?
He's the owner of the company. So
He's the owner. Who's he targeting?
He's targeting engineering firms, AEC, architecture, construction, and then also nonprofits, which is a little bit off to the side.
What titles is he targeting?
We're titling C-suite, owner, managing. If they're in an architecture firm, they're going to be managing partner, CEO, CFO. So it's that level. And right now I'm looking at civil engineering, and he's very geo-specific. So I'm looking at 46 people because he's got a very small database. So, I'm trying to make it personal, but not, cheesy, and not creepy. And I don't have enough time to look at every single connection. So what do you think?
Can I ask a question regarding their influencer position? Because we're in the IT space, and the thing I bump up against all the time is that C-suite and the level of enterprise that we work with is pretty protected.
Yeah.
But there's an array of influencers that have significant influence with the C-suite. Is there an influencer on the same end that you can communicate with that might be a little more open to this type of connection?
Influencer, you mean at the target companies, or?
Yeah, so think of director levels that would communicate up the chain to the C-suite, who have influence over maybe unique things about the engineering firm that maybe from the C-suite, their management, but the influencer is day-to-day operations that have pain points that could be addressed.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. So they could be the director of engineering or something like that. And I would think almost if it says owner, it's going to be a smaller company. We're looking at, sweet spot probably about 50 to 100, and of course it's hard to get that in LinkedIn because you get the 10 to 50 and then the 50 to 200. So yeah, as I look at these titles, it does managing principal, a couple of presidents. Yeah. I'm just a
Hey, Judy.
Yeah.
Does he have his email and his contact info?
Does he have it in his contact info? Everything's there. Yeah, we just optimized the profile. Yeah, yeah.
I'm the person you want to connect with.
Rarely.
Say what now?
Go ahead, Brent. Ask her.
Well, I was going to say that the thing we come across is, of course, we want to speak with the decision maker. Everybody does. It's going to be very rare that you're going to find that unique type of contact information in the C-suite. Number one, half of them even don't know how to optimize their profile, if they even have one. But there's a tool that I use. I don't know if you guys have come across this tool. It's called seamless.ai.
Yeah.
It's an engine that drives, and they've got a plug-in extension that works within LinkedIn that basically you find a person that it would either be a key influencer or somebody in the C-suite that you want to have a conversation with. You basically hit this view, and it goes and it scours the web looking for the identity, and it'll get a percentage of the likelihood that it can find an email, a cell phone, a direct line, and it goes and gathers that in, and it gives you a percentage of the likelihood that it's accurate. So it doesn't guarantee anything, but it'll say we've attempted an IP address hit via email. We think we're about a 95% likelihood that this is accurate. So I've found that tool to be pretty helpful. If I at least can find their name or something, if it's hidden behind a curtain on their website or what have you.
That's a good one, Brent. That's a real, thank you. I wrote it down. And actually, Isaac put it in the chat. Everybody save your chat. Judy, I'm back to you.
Yeah, so wait. Just let me ask a question on that one. So when you do that, are you then reaching out by email to them?
Yeah, so we'll try multiple approaches. So you may say, you may try a direct connect. If that doesn't work, then you may try a way of getting a foot in the door. Maybe it's another influencer in the department. See if they'll make an introduction, find somebody that's more of a peer-to-peer type relationship, build some trusted advisor status, and then see what you can do to have a conversation up the chain. But you may have the ability, if you can put together an email that's unique, that doesn't feel or sound like spam. Usually they've got pretty good filters that protect them from spam because they just get inundated.
Yeah.
But if it's unique enough to get past the preview, you may have an opportunity by mentioning an influencer in a conversation. It takes a little bit of homework, but it comes down to whether you're casting a wide net or you're more of a sniper perspective.
Yeah, no, definitely more
generation.
But have you guys come across any good connection scripts that you liked? Someone has sent you something that you think doesn't sound cheesy, but sounds like,
I feel like it's always cheesy unless I know that they took the time to read my profile.
Yeah, I would agree that the more casual, you mentioned this, Judy, the more casual you can make it sound, because if you guys get hit up like I do, it's just one email after the other, or somebody with the same canned response. The more casual it feels, it makes me aware that they put some effort into it. So if there's something related to my profile, a piece of work that I've done, I know that they've taken time and energy versus somebody who just threw a wide net hoping to get back a response.
Okay, good.
I agree with Brent, and I'd also add that you can maybe get away with it being less custom if you are in the same town or have some really strong common ground where they already are going to trust you more because of that common ground.
Okay.
Yeah, I say find an article, find a news story that they've been mentioned in. Google their name, hit the news tab. Has their company been mentioned? Throw out a compliment. Hey, saw you guys landed this contract. Congratulations. Would love to connect with you and hear more about it.
Okay.
Yeah. So really quick here, I'm sharing my screen. So what Brent was describing was like account-based networking for account-based marketing. And that, Judy, for your client there, it might introduce a complexity to your campaign that is unappealing, but it might be a really good way to get your foot in the door, like Brent was saying. So you might actually start with the accounts and then find your companies. And then let's just really quick here and again, if everybody has to leave, I get it because we're going late. Eric, I don't want to throw you under the bus here. Were you good? Anything?
Yeah, that was super helpful.
Okay.
I really appreciate everybody's.
I actually had
thoughts
one
on
for
that.
Eric, and I know, Isaac, you're in the middle of your screen share. It was it was an easy one. Right before Judy's question, Judy offered the nice solution about assessment. Remember that, Eric?
Yeah, I wrote it down.
So I use Google Forms, and I get a lot of people to fill out the Google Forms. It's a simple 3 or 4 questions.
Do civil engineering. Do civil engineering instead of nonprofit. Just because the nonprofits, I'm finding them makes up bad profiles.
Hi, Judy. This is John.
Hey.
Go to this person's website. She does marketing to the IT world or whatever. Her name's Robin Robbins.
Okay.
And on her sales letter, or however she does things, you might be able to find some good information about how to approach these people.
Oh, that sounds great. Yes, I've heard that name before too.
So what you might do, Robert, you want to throw it in the chat, John, Robin Robbins?
Yeah, I can't see the chat anymore because your screen.
That's okay. Oh, sorry. So here, really quick, Judy, you might go open up the company page, view all their employees,
okay,
and then find the people that are just below your target audience, okay, and then think of it like the org chart. So go a step below, and then just connect with a ton of people. And it's not even going to be a sales pitch. This is purely relational. You're never going to ask them for money. No, there's zero hostility there. And then by the time you get to the C-suite, they see that you're already connected with 20 people in their company, and they go, well, I might as well give Judy a minute.
Yeah. Isaac, I do the same thing. I go look for the marketing peer in a firm that we're trying to have a conversation with. And I just say, hey, looking to connect with other peers in the IT business. Would love to hear your story. Yep. Drop me a DM sometime when you have a second. And it's just casual. Yep. I can't sell something to the marketing person. They know that, but we may be able to have a conversation that we both deal with, and it's just more of a networking. But by the time I get to the C-suite, I may have 4 connections already in that company, and he goes, oh, wow, he knows this person, this person, and this person. I might give him some time.
I love that too.
Absolutely.
I do that in the real world, pre-LinkedIn, but yes, that's a great strategy.
Yep.
That's great. Thanks, Brent.
Sure.
That's awesome.
All right, any last things we can help Eric out with here before I
think Eric, he should push the idea too. He's an affinity to this group or whatever, an insider, because a lot of people, they're apprehensive. Oh, this is some clown coming from outside world. They know nothing about what we do, but you're coming from a place where that's where you always have been. So That's
Yeah, I
your
struggle
being
a little
messy.
bit when I do that, balancing the idea of talking about yourself versus talking about them, and you have only so many characters to get that stuff. But I think you're right. That probably has a higher value because of the proximity than it would a typical marketer would be in that case. So, and Bruce, thanks for entering my sales funnel. I'm gonna get you closed.
Save the chat, buddy. Save the chat.
Also a good tip, Eric, end messages with a question mark. So yeah, tend to keep it shorter, end with a question mark. People feel like they need to reply if there's a question mark there. If there's not a question mark, I'm just like, I'm busy. Maybe I'll get to you later. Never do. Question mark, I'm like, I feel kind of obligated to reply. So maybe end with a question mark, keep it short, keep it about them. Just a couple. Also, there's etiquette, but then there's adaptive etiquette, where I learned this. I was like, oh my gosh, I was working with somebody and they're like, they started and ran a really large multi-million-dollar company, and I realized their communication preferences. They were doing that on LinkedIn, and it would work if they were talking to people who were just like themselves, but they were targeting a different audience. And so in that scenario, it was like, I own a big company. I'm like, tell me this short to the point. I'm going to decide the end. And that's how they communicate. And they're really nice, but that's how they work. And if you're trying to sell to a company or to a person who's not in the same, who's not like you, and you use communication that is acceptable to you, you're going to maybe on accident alienate them. So you have to be adaptive about what's acceptable in etiquette. So be thinking too about these creatives and how you might differ from them and how they would what they would expect to be proper.
Right. Great.
Awesome.
All right, cool. All right,
Thank you all. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Glad you're back. Glad everyone's back. Hump Day wouldn't be the same without you.
That's right.
Woo! All right, appreciate y'all. See you later.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.